We'll have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is to approve the meeting agenda, which will include the reports and the action items for bond fund policy and bond fund resolution. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I move we approve the meeting agenda.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the May 1st, 2018 meeting agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the next item is reports by conference call.
Welcome to the conference center. Enter an access code and press pound. To enter a first... One moment while your call is connected.
It'll be a longer meeting.
Well, he likes to do that, but I felt like it was better me than have one of our associates drive down who didn't know as much about just public finance in general, you know, more of a general public lawyer.
So we're on the line with you. This is the Kendrick School Board. And so could you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure, this is Danielle Quaid. I'm with Holly Troxel, located in our Coeur d'Alene office. Sorry I can't be there in person.
Okay.
And this is Christian Anderson from Zion, out of Boise normally, but I'm traveling today. I'm actually out in Salt Lake, so can't hear me or something, let me know. I am in the car. Just got out of a wedding, so.
No, it sounds good. We seem to be able to hear both of you very well. So I guess, do you guys have some sort of a report or presentation to give us?
Yeah, if you're ready to go, I could jump in first, and this is mostly Danielle's night as far as covering the resolution and getting some things adopted, but I've got a couple things for you. First, just wanted to give you an update since the last time you had my colleague Michael Tippett there to meet. Of course, we have selected an underwriter. We had a great response in our request for proposals. We had 6, which for a bond of this size is very impressive. Honestly, I thought we'd get 2 or 3. So I was really excited to see such a strong response, and we selected George K. Baum, which was the underwriter that provided the lowest combination of expenses, fees, and estimated interest rates. And they've done a great job so far. You know, we have seen the market move up a little bit in interest rates, but as far as the interest rates that they have quoted to us relative to the market rates, the benchmark rates, they've held steady on that, and which they're really aggressive to begin with. So things are looking good. From here, part of tonight you'll be finalizing what's called the preliminary official statement. This is an offering document that goes out to the market for a couple weeks to give investors all the information that they need to make an informed decision about the district's bond. And it's going to be posted on Friday, and then the bonds will price on May 15th. What that means is that May 15th is the day when the interest rates are locked. So the underwriter will be holding what's called an order period, where they take firm orders from investors for those bonds, or indicative orders, whatever the investors are willing to give. And then they use those to determine the prices at which they're going to buy the bonds from you, which determines the interest rate. So we are there to negotiate on your behalf throughout that process, and we represent your interests on your side of the table to get the most aggressive pricing possible. and advise you on, at the end of the day when they make an offer on whether or not to take it. But again, they've done a great job so far. I don't anticipate any issues. So by 11 or 12 o'clock on the 15th, we'll have that locked in. We'll know what the interest rates are going to be, and then it's just another couple of weeks to wrap up all the paperwork and have them deliver the funds. So the one other item, or main item that I wanted to bring to the board, Michael Tippett's brought this to you a couple meetings ago, and that was whether the board would like to structure the new bond so that you lower your payment now, or if you would like to instead cut off the time at the end where you would keep the payments where they are today, but instead shorten the term. And we're actually at the point now where I think we could comfortably cut off that final year. So you save more money by doing this. It's similar to if you had a mortgage and you refinance at a lower rate, but you continue to pay the same payment. You're going to save even more money that way. So in this case, we keep the payments the same, but the rate is lower, and in that way, you actually add about $35,000 in total savings, which is a substantial portion of the total savings to begin with. We're estimating right now with current rates that if we did that kind of uniform savings structure where we lower the payments now, total savings of around $155,000 over the next 14 years. Whereas if we were to do this where we accelerate the payments, basically keep them where they are now and cut that final year off, shorten the term, it jumps up to about $190,000. So it's a substantial increase. The downside is that you don't realize those savings until 2032. So it's just kind of a question of whether the board would like to lower that now and have taxpayers today take that benefit, or do the more long-term conservative thing, which is to take more savings overall, just understanding that most of those savings are not going to come until the very end. So you wouldn't see any impact to your levy rate today. That being said, this is a small bond, and frankly, the bond makes up a small portion of the district's total, levy structure. So even with, really relative to the size of this bond, the amount of savings you're getting are quite high. In the 8 to 9% range of the principal being refinanced. That being said, the average taxpayer, if you just own a home, you're not a big landowner. Even with taking the savings now, it's a difference of $5 to $10 a year. So it's not a huge difference. It's just kind of up to the board on which route you'd rather go. Take more savings later, or take some savings beginning next year.
Okay, you want us to...
Any questions on that?
Yeah. When do you want us to decide that? Do you want us to decide that now, or wait, or?
I think it'd be best if you decide it now. I technically, part of the resolution tonight, you're going to delegate authority to Dr. Clark and Melissa to finalize the pricing of the bonds and to execute that pricing without having to bring the whole board back. And as part of that delegation, they could set those parameters. They could decide which way to go. That being said, they, of course, would want the feedback from which way you'd like to do it as the representatives of the taxpayers. So if you can make a decision tonight, that's ideal. If you don't feel comfortable doing that right away, we could, if you're comfortable giving a decision to Dr. Clark next week, that would work as well. Or ideally by the end of the week. But again, best case scenario, if you're ready to decide, we could get that baked into that the official statement before we post it this week on Friday.
So guidance ready for you.
Yeah. So what do you guys care to do?
So payments are the same and we take it at the end.
We
Okay,
have
is
been
that what everybody thinks?
So,
I mean,
the second.
basically we have 1 year less of payments.
Yeah, because we're not gonna be missing the money, because it's the
10
same
bucks
payment.
is, nobody's gonna notice
Yeah,
that.
nobody's
Right?
gonna notice.
Are you okay with that, Joe?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, we don't need a motion.
Right,
So,
Just a consensus.
You-
Yeah, I'm good with that.
yeah, okay, very good. We have direction, guidance from the board.
Yeah? Would you tell me what was it again? I couldn't hear that well.
so we decided to take most of the interest at the end, so that would be the second one here, the
So we're gonna shorten?
Accelerating.
the accelerated, yeah.
Okay, we can do it. Thank you.
you,
Any other questions on the structure or the schedule before Danielle takes over with the resolution?
So the bonds are callable, is that right? We probably won't call them because there won't be very many years left, but are they callable?
Right.
They are?
They will be callable in 10 years. You know, we could look at doing a shorter call, but again, the bonds, they're so small that there's just not going to be enough, you know, meat on the bones essentially to justify another refinancing.
Right.
Even if we were to do a 7 or an 8 year call, and frankly, the shorter the call, the more it costs. So
Yeah.
10 years is really the standard. You know, I wouldn't want to go more than that, but I also don't see any reason to go less. And then, you know, the only other reason you might want to do, you know, have a different call is if you thought you would try and pay the bonds off early. Again, we're going to cut a year off, but if you thought you'd pay it off even sooner than that, frankly, you're a, you know, kind of a high levy district already. I don't necessarily think that's something that you know, future board would want to do, to over levy to pay the bonds off faster. So, but you know, even with a 10-year call, after 10 years, you could do that if you wanted to.
Okay.
But I wouldn't recommend going any shorter than that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any other questions?
Okay, well, this is Danielle Quaid, and like I said, I'm with Holly Troxel, and we are acting as bond counsel to the district, and we appreciate the opportunity to do that. Kristen gets the exciting part, which is to tell you about the savings that you've already heard about, and then I get to lead you through this resolution here. So I don't know if you have it in front of you, but I'd like to highlight just a few of the material pieces for you, just to give you an idea kind of what goes into this document and what you're agreeing to. The first thing that you would expect is that I'm on page 5 of the resolution in section 2.1, but you're authorizing the issuance of these bonds. They're issued only for the purpose of refunding your 2007 bonds. The next section that I like to draw your attention to is section 208, which is on page 8. And that is the list of all of the things that are being authorized by this resolution. You authorize some additional documents, including the bond purchase agreement, which is being negotiated with the underwriter that was selected, as well as the preliminary official statement, which is the document used to sell the bonds into the marketplace. There's an information reporting agreement. This exists on your 2007 bonds also, and actually Christian did some good work for you to get the requirements for your ongoing disclosure to the marketplace reduced some, so that'll be a little bit less burdensome on your business manager than it has been in the past. And then the final material document is the escrow agreement, which is where the proceeds are deposited until the bonds can be actually refunded. Turning to section 209, that's the section where the actual delegation of authority related to the bonds happens for the sale. So your delegated officers pursuant to this resolution are your superintendent and business manager, and they have to act together. And they have to act within the requirements of this section 2.09. So they cannot proceed if the interest rate savings, if the total savings on the bonds is less than 3%. You heard Christian say that it probably will be more like 8 or 9%. So we don't expect that to be an issue, but there is a floor there where we would not go forward without further action of the board. You can't exceed the refunded par amount for those 2007 bonds, and that's because, you know, you have voted authorization for those bonds, and so we can't go in excess of that original voted authorization. We also can't exceed the final maturity of those original bonds because, again, your voters authorized that final maturity. Another thing I'd like to point out in section 2.15 is that you're receiving the bond levy subsidy, so those payments will be used to subsidize the interest costs. And 2.16, the bonds are designated qualified tax exempt. We call it bank qualified, but this is a designation for small issuers that allows you to get more advantageous interest pricing. So that's a good thing, taking care of all of the opportunities you have for savings. Section 2.17 is recognizing that you did get the state bond guarantee and the state credit enhancement program, which allows the bonds to be rated with the state's credit rating, which again really helps on holding that interest cost down. I'm going quickly, I know, so stop me asking any questions that you have about the resolution. But perhaps probably the most important section is section 5.01, which is where you pledge to levy the taxes and collect those levy subsidy payments and use those to pay the bonds. The levy that was authorized at the time of the election is an unlimited levy to pay whatever is necessary to pay the bonds, and here you pledge that you will do that. So if you have other revenues you choose to use, you certainly can, but you're obligated to levy an amount necessary to repay the bonds. The final thing I like to talk about is the tax exemption. These bonds are tax exempt, as I'm sure you know, and to preserve that, you just need to keep utilizing the projects constructed with the original bonds for tax exempt purpose. School purpose certainly fits within that, but you just got to keep in mind if there ever was opportunity for private development in your schools, be it a coffee stand or a for-profit bookstore or something like that, you have to keep in mind that you only have a very small amount of the facilities financed with the bonds that can be used for private purposes. I know I covered a lot. I certainly open any questions you have.
Danielle, this is Lindsay Park, the school superintendent. I do have a question on the policy bond fund. Do you have that in front of you?
I do. Let me grab it here. I'm pulling it up. So what section is your question on? Well, first of all, do you want to adopt the bond resolution first and then move on to that policy, or do you want? You're welcome to ask the question. So that's a separate approval.
Yes, it does. We have three motions that the board will be looking at tonight.
Okay.
So you want to hold off on answering that question until we actually pass?
No, go ahead. I'm looking for it right now. So go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. On page 2 of the policy bond account, under the paragraph heading, deposit of funds into bond fund, payment of bonds, there's a 5-day provision there. We would like to change to 7 days.
And I think we did change that in a subsequent draft.
Okay, so the draft I have is not the most current one?
It must not be.
It has been changed to 7 days.
I think Kristen provided a separate draft of that document.
Yeah.
Is that right, Kristen?
That should be the only change, so that should be fine. If you just want to, make that slight change before you adopt it,
Okay.
that's just fine.
Okay, the draft that's before the board tonight is the old one. And that provision of 5 to change to 7 days also appears on the next page, under deposit of funds into bond fund, payment of bonds. We'd like to see that be 7 days as well, but apparently you've already changed that in your latest draft. Thank you.
I believe so, but maybe just mark on there and have Melissa provide that to us, and then we can ensure that we have both places where you're seeing it.
Okay, we'll see if we can find that latest revision, or the latest draft. Do we have
I
that?
think one of them
We're
came
good.
on it in my office, but then Kristen said he had sent a separate version of the same document.
Okay. Melissa says that we have it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
So you want to go ahead and move to adopting the resolution first?
That
Okay, Don,
Okay.
we're doing number 3. We're doing it out of order, but that's okay.
Okay, adoption of the resolution.
And the resolution is that last, looks like this.
That top paragraph only.
The top paragraph.
Do we
Yeah, I
need,
guess you guys can all review that. Maybe Kim can just read the top paragraph, resolution itself, and then we can
it's at the top of the page.
have a vote on it.
A resolution authorizing the issuance and providing for the sale of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2018 of Joint School District Number 283, Latah, Nez Perce, and Clearwater Counties, State of Idaho. Authorizing the manner of sale of the bonds, delegating authority to approve the terms, provisions, and sale of the bonds, and providing for related matters.
Okay, the resolution requires a roll call vote. Kim, would you call the roll?
Dawn?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Jody? Aye. And-
Motion,
Go ahead.
motion passed unanimously. So we have a resolution.
You made the motion.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to make.
What, Ted?
A motion to,
To make a motion.
for the resolution.
Motion in a second.
We need to make a motion to what now?
To approve the
Approve the resolution.
We did.
Thought we just did.
We just did a roll call vote. We didn't do the
I make a motion, we approve the resolution.
Second.
Oh, so we made a motion that this was a resolution, now we need a motion to approve it. Is that what everybody understands?
Joe made the motion.
Yeah.
Joe made the
And
motion,
Steve seconded.
Seconded. Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. It's roll call vote. Could you call the roll, Kim?
Dawn?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Shelby? Aye. And it's unanimous.
Okay.
Oh, absent. Chad Gardner, sorry.
Shannon was absent, yeah. So we have adopted the resolution. Now, do we need to proceed with the policy?
We have to waive the second reading of the policy.
Does she still want to be on?
What's that?
Does Danielle still want to join us? Or is she?
Yeah, do you need us for anything else, Danielle?
I'm happy to stay on until you complete the approval of the policy.
Okay. All right, so, you guys want to take a minute to review the policy, or?
I have a quick question for you, Danielle. At the top of the policy, it says adopted as of, is that tonight?
Yes, for purposes of the preliminary official statement, so this is something that the bond investors and the rating agencies are moving to wanting to see with these types of transactions. They just want to make sure that your bond funds that are levied specifically for this purpose are being held separately. So we want to be able to put in the POS, with the disclosure document that's going to be published later this week, that the policy was adopted. So that, yeah, we want to complete it with today's date.
Okay, so May 1st, 2018. We had MSBT Law review this policy, and there were no changes. I do have an email from,
Maybe creates it real quick.
he's done that as well. In terms of the policy, he doesn't see anything wrong with adopting it tonight. And in terms of that letter, he has attached it to the email he sent me.
Is he gonna create this as a number and on their stationery as part of our policy set?
Right,
He did that, or
He'll-
he will do it,
he will do it.
because they want a copy of it,
Okay,
after this week.
so we'll have that ordered by tomorrow. Danielle, can we send you a copy of the policy by email attachment tomorrow?
That'd be great, yes. I mean, once I hear the motion, I'll feel comfortable that we can include it in the preliminary official statement.
Okay, very good. There's two things that need to happen. We need to waive the second reading and then go to adopting the policy.
So is there a motion to waive the second reading?
I'll make a motion to waive the second reading, with the note being, the change to 5 to 7 days on the
Okay.
fund policy.
It's been moved and seconded to waive the second reading.
Who seconded it?
Joe did.
Okay, Joe did.
If there's any discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Now we need a motion to adopt the policy.
I'll make a motion to adopt the bond fund policy with the change as stated from 5 to 7 days.
Second.
It's been moved to second to adopt the bond fund policy with a change from 5 to 7 days in the appropriate spot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Bond fund policy is adopted.
Danielle, did you get all of that?
I did, yes. Thanks, you guys.
Christian, are you still on the line?
I'm still here, yep.
Okay, we've completed all of our business.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
All right.
Tell them I'll send them their copies tomorrow.
Great.
We will send you copies of everything we've done tonight tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Sounds
We look
great.
forward to
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night.
Okay. All right, just gotta make sure we get everything signed.
Yep.
I guess, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
So Melissa, you're gonna get the correct copy of this or tomorrow?
What are you talking about?
Letterhead.